one says choose how figures are shown, saved to disk or displayed in line. If you remember yesterday, I mentioned that when using Google Colab, it is better not to display the figures in the notebook because it will waste your data. So in Google Colab, it's better to set this show figs equals false. Okay, that means that the figures will not be in the notebook. They'll be saved in a folder. And if you remember, last time to show the figures, I went into the folder. But now we have VS Code, and we are not using our internet data. So it's best to show the figures in the notebook. Now, this is what's called a toggle. This says that this variable show figs can be true or false, and it will change the behavior. Now, if I want the notebook to show figs in my notebook, I should set show figs equals true. So what you need to do is go into the code, find out where show figs is set, and make sure that show figs is set as true. Okay. So the code is below. Can you find in this code here where show figs is set? Do you see where it's set? Anybody see it? Okay. It's right here. No. It's right here, you see? Now I want my notebook to display the figures. So I need to change false to true. See if you can do that. Change false to okay, so I will do it myself. Right. Now notice something here. I typed in true, but VS Code is telling me something else. What's the difference between what I typed and what VS Code typed? Capital T. Capitals are very important in Python. Extremely important. If you do the capital wrong, your code will not work. Okay. If I try to run this code, it will give me an error. Name error. It says name true is not defined. Why? Because it thinks true is a variable. It's not a keyword. The other way you can tell that it doesn't understand true is you can see true is in black. That means that it does not recognize this as a keyword. Now, if I fix it and change it to capital T like that, everything is fine. You can see the color changed, but recognizes the keyword. And if I run it now, everything should be fine. Okay, so that's your first exercise. Congratulations, you passed the test. Okay. All right, so now we have our train test split. And I mentioned this before. The testing data is like your final exam. The training data is your homework. And you can't do the final exam for homework. There's also a third set called validation set, which is sometimes used and sometimes. Validation set is like a quiz. It's a preliminary test that determines whether your learning is going well. Right. So as it says here, the golden rule, the test set is sealed until the very end. Looking at it or making any decision corrupts the evaluation. All right, so let's go down. We are using synthetic data modeled on DHS birth recode. And I hope that by the end of this week, we will be using real data. The outcome is child stunting. I think you're familiar with this. And here it says child stunting means having a height per age z-score below -2. Now, if you're not familiar with z-score, I recommend that you you Google z-score. It's a basic concept from statistics. But for us, when we do data science, we don't always need to know the significance of the data. We only need to know how to detect the data. Okay. So here we have our different variables. I mentioned yesterday, these are called features. Wealth quintile, urban or rural, this is a 1-0 variable. This is what's called an ordinal variable because it's ordered from poorest to richest. Maternal education, sex, age and months, birth order, and maternal height. So most of these are ordinal: age and month, birth order, maternal height. Order 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Stunted is the target. This is what I want to predict based on the other features. We can think that in a preliminary way, urban stunted is probably less than rural stunted. Okay. Now this cell here is gender. I should have put a comment. Don't need to understand this cell. Two percent of 1,000. Okay, I give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. From here, I know that 172 children are stunted. Right, 17.2% of 1,000. Here are my variables table. Okay. These index my different children. And the very last one should tell me whether it's stunted or not. So I'm going to divide this table into the first part, which is what I call X, or the feature data, and the last part, which is called Y, or the target. All right. Now, this is something I did not do yesterday. Here we have a section here called balancing the classes. Here it says, right now, only a minority of children are stunted. This is realistic, but it makes early teaching harder. A model that always predicts not stunted already score well on accuracy. And I described this yesterday. If I predict not stunted for all children, my accuracy will be over 80%. But it's not a good prediction. Okay? So one way to deal with this is to balance the classes. You train and test on data that is balanced. Right? So there are different ways to balance data. One way is simply to remove extra data from the Then, okay, good. And then here it says, shuffle the rows. Because sometimes when you have your data, it will give all of the stunted first and all of the non-stunted second. You want to make sure that your data is mixed up. So one way to do that is use this shuffle. Yeah. Okay. So here, this is concatenate. This is shuffle. So again, you don't need to understand all of this code in detail. And now here you have the print statements. This is what I expected to display. It will give me the size of the original data set, the balanced data set, the stunted, and the stunting prevalent after balancing. So now we have balanced data. Maternal education. Rather than encoding these as 1, 2, 3, 4, another possibility is use 4 different variables, and each variable is 1 or 0, depending on the mother's education. So if I run this, I have increased increased the size of my matrix. And I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to remove that. Okay. And here it says show figs equals true, so I'm fine with that. Okay. All right. So I have 2 minutes. Let's see if we can get to a good stopping point. All right. So I want to show you what the data looks like to see the sample data. You can do so. Let's see. The balanced data set is called DHS, and so I can do this DHS dot head. It will show me the first few rows of this data set. Okay. Well, it looks like balancing yet. Do the all right. So this is balanced. So I didn't do the one hot encoding. Let me do the one hot encoding, and you can see how that changes it. So I'm going to add another code cell down here, and I'll say D dot head. Now you see this was a AI. I'm not sure that you have AI suggestions. But it looks like it's still not, changed. I think the reason it changed is that it changed the name to XRAW. We will use XRAW. XRAW is the original data, with balanced classes and one hot encoding. So instead of DHS here, I'm going to type XRAW. And I invite you to do the same thing. All right, so let's see if we have this. Okay, so this says maternal education higher, maternal education none, maternal education primary, maternal education secondary. And you can notice that each one of there in each row, there's just one true and the others are false. Unfortunately, it put higher first. This is because it's doing alphabetical order. Right. So I think my time is up, but we're just about at the first exercise. Here we have a split for the data. And as mentioned before, most of the data should be trained. Some of it should be test. So this will split the data and stratify. Okay. Now, this exercise explains what stratify means. Stratify means that the prevalence is equal in both sets. It makes sure that the percent of stunted is nearly equal in both sets.
Um, Good afternoon, Prof. So I have a question regarding.
Where are you?
Okay, my name is Victor. My question is, I noticed that you use at the point of splitting, you use a random state of 42. So you'll see if, like it's that based on the experience or just a random value, and how do you determine the sweet spot to use or value when you are trying to determine a random state?
I'm sorry, the sound quality is very bad. If I find out where you are, you can tell me personally. Okay. Yes, this is very bad. If you tell me the question, then I will repeat the question for other people. You said how? Yes. Random state? Okay. All right. So the question is how to choose the random state. It really doesn't matter. What this is it's it sets your random number generator at a particular state. That means every
like a bit of exercise, stretch ourselves a bit. So Mr. Daniel, you come and help us with now you know system. Thank you very much. So come and help us stretch and you know. Mr. Daniel, where are you? Where are you? Okay. Stretch our body.